Would you like to know everything that I read in July? I think you would. There are some really good ones in there. The sun is like doing interesting things on, ooh, yeah. I love the sun. Okay, it's doing interesting things. We might just have to roll with it. Let's go through everything I read in July. So I started off July with a book that I'd been meaning to read for quite some time, and I'd heard a lot of good things about it, and I was honestly really excited to read it. Now, the thing that upset me most about this book was that the US cover is so nice, and this is the UK cover. Look at that. It's not nice. It's not nice. Which is a shame because the book is great. It's so good. The Idiot by Elif Batuman. This was like everything that I was craving to read when I picked it up. Really good novel to sink my teeth into, to get to know some characters, for it to be fairly chunky and just kind of lose myself in the story for a little while. This definitely proved to be the right choice for that. I love this. I think the thing that I liked most about this book was that because quite a few of the characters are multilingual, there's so much focus on language and word choice, and to my shame I only speak English, but I love language and I love words, and so there was a lot to do with that in this book, and you know, I just kind of eat that up whenever it becomes a theme in a book. So I was really glad to kind of lose myself in a story that's centered around language so much. The Idiot is definitely a finding and inventing yourself kind of book. It has campus novel energy. I wouldn't say that's like the main focus of the book. It's definitely more about it's definitely a coming of age story. So Celine is in her first year at Harvard University, and she is not entirely sure who she is or who she wants to be, and this book covers her falling in love for the first time, and you know, facing rejection for the first time, and creating friendships with people who are wildly different from her, and also travel and teaching, and it's basically a whole load of first experiences in one book. And I really like that Celine's character she doesn't come across as like the typical teenager. She's away at university, she's living on campus, and she doesn't necessarily want to go out and party and get drunk. She's more interested in writing long-winded emails to her crush, and she's more interested in picking apart why people feel the need to drink rather than just getting drunk herself. And I think that's what I love most about her character. She's so inquisitive, like endlessly curious, very considered and thoughtful, and I feel like she just wants to figure everything out. And maybe that's because she's in such a transitory phase of life, where she's in this new place and she's trying to figure out herself and other people and what she wants to do. And I just really loved Batuman's writing so much. Like, I feel like if you want a good novel to sink your teeth into, like, this is a really great choice. The character of Svetlana, the girl that ends up being her best friend, I'm obsessed with her. I think she's just so enjoyable to read about. She's really fun, and she's a bit over the top and super emotional and totally does things on a whim, and she really kept Celine and me on our toes, and I really enjoyed that. But then you have the worst person Celine could ever have a crush on, she develops a crush on. And I was just like, girl, no, do not waste your energy on this guy. So that was quite like I felt like big sister energy towards her. Like I wanted to kind of just pull her aside and be like, look, I know you want to learn this lesson yourself, I guess, but this guy, not the one. But yeah, there's so much to do with language and traveling and figuring out who you are, inventing who you are, and building relationships and friendships. And there's a reason why so many people really love this book. Maybe not the cover, but the book, definitely. And then I read a collection of essays called Too Much and Not the Mood by Durga chew-bose, and this was really, really, really great. I feel like I say that about every book that I read, most of them. And if you go on my Goodreads, there's a lot of 4 stars and 5 stars, and I think I know what I like and I kind of read what I like, and so most of the time you won't find me slating something because I tend to not waste my time there. But yeah, I love a collection of essays, and this one was really good. The only thing that kind of put me off a tiny bit, and I don't think it was the book's fault at all or the writing's fault, I think it's because I can be quite cynical sometimes, that when I was reading it just seemed a bit too earnest in places, and honestly I think that's me and where I was coming from rather than the actual writing. There is so much in here about being a writer and being a woman and your place within a family and how your family affects you, and being a woman of color, and you know, having 2 cultures on your shoulders and trying to fit into them both. And I really feel like Durga chew-bose's writing is entirely readable. Like it is so easy to read. It's almost like your friend has written to you to explain how she's feeling about things. It has that really familiar and kind of intimate tone, and yeah, this was a really, really enjoyable read. It was really like heartwarming and touched me. There was an essay, I think it might even be the first one or the second one, maybe the first one, it's quite long, it's called Heart Museum, and she's speaking about the sense of wonderment in life, and I just really love that, because as I was reading this book I feel like I connected with Durga chew-bose on her emotional level. Like she feels everything deeply and she really thinks about things, and it's almost like she has emotions about every single thing she comes across. And sometimes I feel like I'm like that and it's like too much. The title of the book. But I feel like quite a lot that's maybe something I would say about myself, like, oh, I'm being too much. But when I was reading this book, I just really felt kind of like I had that sense of reassurance, because she was writing so beautifully, and what she was writing about was just like really feeling something about something. Let me try find, there's this really, really nice paragraph about discovering something for the first time. Oh, I've underlined so much in here. Oh, here it is here. Even when I'm caught off guard by a lathery shade of peach in the bottom corner of a painting at the Met, as if being reminded that I haven't seen all the colours, and how there's more to see, and how one colour's newness can invalidate all of my sureness, to experience infinity, and sometimes too the teasing melancholy born from the smallest breakthroughs, like an unanticipated shade of peach. Like she's just found this new colour to her, and it's almost opened up this window of recognition of all of the new possibilities that could be waiting for her, and how that just gives you a brand new perspective on life in that moment. Like, oh my god, maybe I haven't seen all of the colors or tasted all of the flavors and heard all the sounds, that sort of feeling. And yeah, I just really, really love her writing. Yeah, I would recommend this to you if you like a really personal, intimate essay collection. Yeah, it was really, really good. So I posted on my Instagram that I was reading this, and my friend Lydia sent me a link to an interview with Durga chew-bose, and I will link it below because it's a really, really good interview. I'll also tag Lydia as well because you should check out her Instagram. yeah, I love a good essay collection, and this was definitely great. And then I read a very small book by a writer who I love, but I haven't read any of their work in a while. It was Woolgathering by Patti Smith, and this cover is just brilliant. I love it. Just yes. So I've really loved Patti Smith's writing for a long time. I've read Just Kids, and I've read M-Train and Devotion, and there's something about her writing that is just so magical. Most of what I've read of hers is non-fiction, as is this, but she has a way of just making it sound like, I can't even really put it into words, but her writing is very lyrical, very imagery heavy, and sorry, there's a really loud noise outside. So Patti Smith's writing is very lyrical, and it has this power to really transport you into her mind and into her space. Woolgathering is about the nature of artistic creation, and it speaks a lot about her childhood. And sometimes I had to remind myself when I was reading that this is non-fiction, but that I feel like is part of Patti Smith's charm when she's writing. Like, she really does make everything so immersive in a really, you feel like you're in a story, because her writing is just so like transportive and textural. And yeah, this was really short, and as usual, because it's Patti Smith, it has a lot of gorgeous photos in there as well. I really feel, I love when nonfiction does this, because it just kind of elevates your experience. I mean, look at her as a child. Adorable. Yeah, she's speaking a lot about her childhood, a lot about the nature of her artistic creation and where it comes from and why it is the way it is, and it's just very lyrical and meditative, and it was just a really dreamlike, dreamy experience reading this book, and I'm sure I'll come back to it again and again, almost as like a little palette cleanser, because it's so slim but just really simple and beautiful. And I feel like I really needed some Patti Smith after a couple of years of not reading anything of hers. I do have The Year of the Monkey on my shelf, and I haven't read that yet. And that's definitely one of those books I put off reading because I know I'm going to love it. But hopefully I will get to it soon, because reading this just kind of like stirred up that need for Patti Smith in me, because she really is a very special writer. And then next I read my book club book, which was Higher Ground by Anke Stelling. And I spoke a lot about this in my last video, but I think I forgot to say like how funny this can be at times, like darkly funny and kind of like really dry and sharp humor. But yeah, if you want more in depth about this, go watch my last video. But I will sum this up by saying a very well done book that takes an unrelenting look at the privilege of the middle class and how that is viewed through a working class lens. I will just say that this book is exhausting, it is unrelenting, it is unyielding, but it is incredibly bold, incredibly well written, and I do feel like this is something that everyone should read. Maybe be prepared to feel a little bit uncomfortable. You might have to be confronted with some truths that you might not want to hear, but yeah, this book asks and ponders a lot of really important questions, especially related to the state of capitalism in which we live. And if you read this book, you should be angry, like you should be quite pissed off. I will say that you might want to follow it up with a lighter read or an easier read because it is quite exhausting, but as it should be, like truly as it should be. And I followed that up with a very dreamlike read with Bluets by Maggie Nelson, and I adored this so much. This might be one of the best books I've ever read. It contains numbered, like kind of like journal entries. So we have, how many are there? I will tell you how many there are. We start at 1 and we go all the way through to number 240. And they're just little episodes related to the color blue. It becomes very personal, very intimate, very tangential. There's just so many different threads that are being woven together just with the color blue. But I feel like Maggie Nelson has a really beautiful way of writing really honestly and really intimately and personally, without any judgment, without feeling any shame. Like she just kind of puts on the page what she wants to put on the page, and like I really love her for that. This book is so special, and I know that most people have probably already read this. It was definitely something that I put off reading because I knew I was going to love it so much. I am so guilty of doing that. It's like I literally am scared of the emotional bond I might have with some writing. But yeah, if you haven't read this, I really would urge you to do so. And I would love to hear your thoughts if you have read it and what you think of it. Some really gorgeous writing in here. There's just so, like, the language is so good. Once I travelled to the Tate in London to see the blue paintings of Yves Klein, who invented and patented his own shade of ultramarine, International Klein Blue, then painted canvases and objects with it throughout a period of his life he dubbed l'époque bleue. Standing in front of these blue paintings or propositions at the Tate, feeling their blue radiate out so hotly that it seemed to be touching, perhaps even hurting my eyeballs, I wrote but one phrase in my notebook: too much. I'd come all this way and I could barely look. Like, I love her. I love her so much. And then I ended July with a new release from Jessica Andrews with a really beautiful cover. Look at that stone fruit. Yes. It just looks so like hot. And this book really is like, there's so much heat in this book. It like shimmers off the page. Again, I spoke about this a lot in my last video, but what I will say is, if you want a story that will take you to locations, so we're in London, we're in Barcelona, and we're in Paris, very briefly, then this is a really good book for you. I really loved reading about when the characters were in Barcelona, because Jessica Andrews' writing really drops you in a scene perfectly. Her writing kind of is so sensory. You can hear, smell, taste, feel everything that is going on around the characters, and she kind of conjures up a really good sense of mood and atmosphere. So if you want something that's like a feast for the senses, highly lyrical and like dripping in imagery, then Milk Teeth might be a good choice for you. I prefer her debut, Saltwater, but Milk Teeth is also, it's a good story, it's a good read. Okay, so here's just, I'll give you a little paragraph and you'll see what I mean about how the picture is painted for you, like in detail. You send photos of cypress trees, light on blue water, a sky the colour of possibility. I imagine us walking the old streets, eating oranges beneath a violet sky. I picture days spilling into wine-dark nights, mopeds backfiring, the sun trapped in our skin. I think about how easy everything seemed in the Highgate house, and the memory is suffused with soft light. But I know that I should try to forget you, but the thought of you ignites the part of me that wants unattainable things like beauty and thunder, hurtling towards a sense of something I cannot explain. So it's like extremely heavy with emotion and imagery, and yeah, it's almost like you cannot avoid having a movie playing in your head as you're watching it. It is so highly visual. I kind of love that. Like, I'm a very visual person anyway. But yes, very, very lyrical, very heavy on the imagery. Please tell me why I only film these videos when my hair is like screaming to be washed. I think we're on like day 4 or day 5. I feel like I'm giving you the impression that I'm a little greaseball, which isn't exactly wrong, but maybe I'll like film a video when I have like freshly washed hair one day. I would love to know what you read in July, and maybe like your favorite book of the month, or if you came across anything that was a disappointment. I always want to know. If you've read any of these books, please let me know your thoughts, especially if you've read Bluets, because I honestly feel like that book now has a very special place in my heart. Also, I reached 1,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. I'm incredibly touched by that. And as is booktube tradition, I'm going to do a 1K Q&A. So if you have any questions for me, let me know. You can put them in the comments below, or you can send me a DM on Instagram. I would love for you to be nosy about my life. Doesn't mean I'm gonna answer it, but be as nosy as you want and we'll see what I answer. Yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.